Well, good morning and welcome back to a very cold and frosty portrush. Now, I had plans this morning to continue on with my little handmade book project, but the area that I was looking to shoot in is facing east, and there's a heck of an easterly wind coming through. Now, in fact, later on this week it's going to be pretty strong with 40-50 mile an hour winds, so maybe time to get the old long lens out and some wave action. So feeling quite despondent, because I didn't really want to travel too far again. I was sort of just going to head back to the house, and then I thought to myself, you know what, I'll head up onto the little foreshore here, just outside the flat. It's a very low tide. On the west here we're a little bit more sheltered from the wind, and it's incredible how just a small change in the environment can turn an average scene into something with a little bit of interest, and that's certainly what's happened here. Basically, we've had a couple of flurries of snow moving through, and some of that snow has settled in the little cracks and crooks of the stone, and it almost gives a little bit of additional interest, especially thinking very graphical, sort of black and white, high contrast. So kind of got the camera set up here, and obviously there's going to be a lot of that. There's going to be a lot of pointing straight down, but there's a little scene here, and I just liked how the snow sort of lying on top of the wider bit of rock just meandered through the scene, and as I say, shooting in black and white, and with a concept thinking whenever I come to process these, they're all going to be very sort of punchy, very high contrast. So and of course, given the fact that I was in a bit of a mood because my original plan didn't work out, it's always a bonus when you get to stay out with the camera and just have a little bit of a play around. So I've just come across another little scene, and this is slightly different, not obviously looking straight down as you can see here. And what really drew my eye, now that snow is not going to last for a long time, even though it's bitterly cold. I can already see that unless we get a few more snow flurries coming through, it's going to be dissolving. So I'm having to kind of work quicker than I'd like to. I thought we were going to sort of get a little bit of conditions carrying on, but we'll see how we go. Anyway, so kind of pointing out towards behind me here, there's a lovely meandering sort of bit of rock and a little bit of snow. And then there's a bigger sort of pool of water which is kind of semi-frozen over, which then has some lovely sort of snowflakes on top of, well, I guess they're hail, they're not really snow, polystyrene balls on top of that. And then now, even though I'm going to be shooting this in black and white and most likely processing it in black and white, there's also an option there maybe to think about colour, because there's little sort of hints of green lichen moving through, little bits of green lichen showing through. Now, I don't think I'm going to shoot or process in colour, because there's not really a huge amount of light, and I think there needs to be some light to really lift the greens in there. But obviously shooting raw, I have that option. But yeah, what I quite like about the scene is just a little sort of curve moving through, and there's almost like an implied S curve through there, and then just the different layers with sort of the ice covered water and then the snow on top of that. I mean, what would be nice is if there was a few patterns in where the snow is, just to give a little bit of interest in there, but not too shabby. No filters, 18-135, F something or other. But I get the feeling that what little bits of snow, although we are getting a few more flakes coming down now. Fingers crossed, hey? Fingers crossed. So again, just another little simple scene here. Back to having the camera pointing down towards it, and again, just how that snow has just brought some visual interest to the scene. All it is pretty mundane rocks and just a little fissure running through them, And I really loved how with a portrait orientation I was able to kind of have those veins coming in from either side of the bottom of the frame and then up through the center of the frame and disappearing off the top, almost like the veins of a tree, or maybe the veins in the back of your hand. And again, thinking, towards the processing of these images, really contrasty, really punchy. I think that's the order of the day. Now, looking on the back of the screen, it would seem that I am blowing the highlights just a touch, but I kind of want to do that. Just because I know I'm going to be sort of making this very punchy, and so those whites are probably going to be very, very bright, just to give me a little bit of leeway in the dark room. Every so often I will take a second image just with a third of the stop underexposed, but given my sort of knowledge of the X-T4, I think that when you have those little sort of just pokes of highlights, they're definitely recoverable. And sometimes actually, even though the back of the camera, because of course this is basing itself off the JPEG, the back of the camera is telling me that I'm overexposed. I'm actually not overexposing, so I'm okay with that. That's a bit too technical mumbo jumbo for this time in the morning. Let's get back to making images, eh? And I'm not quite sure whether I've just got used to the cold or whether my hands have actually just turned to ice, because I can't feel them anymore, which I guess is a good thing because they're no longer painful. I'm going to suffer for that when I go back into the heat. Well guys, I think that's actually going to be it. The light has now sort of crept into this little area, and a lot of the snow that was in the interesting places has now sort of melted away. But great, I think over the next couple of days we are going to get some colder conditions, and some of these little sort of flows of water might actually freeze over, creating a slightly more interesting scene. Now, I'm obviously going to wrap up this vlog here, but I'm not sure this is going to... there's some fantastic conditions going on out at sea, so what I'm probably going to do is change tack somewhat and go off and shoot a little bit for myself. But a nice little bit of unexpected bonus coming down here and finding some of those more graphical. I mean, the images themselves, fine, they're probably okay, but it's just allowing yourself not to get, oh, my original plan didn't work, so now what am I going to do? I could have went back, grabbed a coffee and just sat about feeling sorry for myself, but this has been great. Some lovely little abstracty patterns and some graphical visuals. So hope you guys have enjoyed that little bonus episode. As always, thanks for watching, and until next time, take care, bye bye. Okay guys, so in the video I talked a little bit about watching out for overexposure and using the back of the camera as a reference point. Now, here are two frames that I've shot. This is completely straight out of camera. So this one here looks obviously brighter than the previous one. You can see that this one here was shot at 0.7 seconds. This one shot a stop overexposed from that at 1.4 seconds. And on the back of the camera, I was getting a few blinkies here in the highlights. But as you can see, if I just toggle J to turn the highlight warnings on and off, we actually were not overexposing any of the frame, and this actually gives me a slightly cleaner frame to work from. Not that I couldn't have done something with this by perhaps increasing the shadows and doing something from that perspective, but I prefer to maybe work from this particular frame. So again, that just comes from a little bit of experience from using the X-T4, knowing that when there's only a couple of highlight warnings, that the frame will either be recoverable or we're not actually overexposing at all. As I mentioned as well, I finished the vlog, but I carried on shooting, and I'll throw up a couple of the images from the wider vista now. Once again, thanks a lot for watching, and until next time, take care, bye bye.